Everyone, my name is Austin. I'm a senior product designer here at GitLab, working for the compliance group. So this week I wanted just to highlight, I spent a good bit of time working on my 360 feedback. Most of it was for people in our group. So hopefully, as I tie it together, you'll find that feedback useful. Um, Let me know in the future if it helped you or not. I'd love to know if you enjoyed or found my feedback constructive. But outside of that, I was doing a number of things to kind of stay occupied and try and accomplish some smaller tasks since I was taking on a lot of my mental capacity this week. One of the things that I'm still building out are the scenarios for the category maturity scorecard. My uh, most concern, or my highest concern, lies with the compliance management side of things. So I've written out a few scenarios to try and run through what I feel would cover the gamut for compliance management. My concern with these controls is it might take way too long to actually run the actual research itself, and I don't know if that's going to be acceptable or not. So I'm going to work with Sam on kind of synthesizing this down to my EX research counterpart, Anna, to just make sure that we have a good scenario here. I'm going to also do this for audit events and audit reports, just so that we're getting ready for those evaluations coming up. This is also a fun thing that I was looking into this week. So we actually have a feature that had a feature flag turned off. So if you go into security and compliance and in a project, not in a group, and you open up that in a new tab, you'll see that there's a configuration page. So there's one for security testing and one for compliance. This description doesn't change, but the only thing it's showing here is license compliance. So one thing that I'm considering is how we might actually make that page more useful. So one idea that I had was to incorporate the features that we call out in our docs. So we highlight a number of features that users can take advantage of to be more compliant in their GitLab environment. But specifically, there are a few that we could highlight for a specific project itself. So we could highlight the usage of compliance frameworks. We could highlight the usage of external statuses, whether inherited membership is enforced or not, what the current SSH key restriction is, if they've done any separation of duty configurations. Now, mostly this would just be pointers, so it would point you back to where other settings exist in GitLab. But this would be a neat way of kind of showing, hey, are you taking advantage of all the different compliance features that we offer you in GitLab, even if they don't necessarily belong to our group? Like license compliance doesn't necessarily belong to us, but it is kind of a part of the compliance management journey if you want to think about it that way. I also wanted to highlight something that's been coming up in some discussions. So as we consider the experience of interacting with GitLab, we have a large number of features in the sidebar, both at the group and the project level. Both are this way. And we're trying to holistically think about how we can create a more focused space for the user so that we're not creating more cognitive load. One area that has been called out recently is just requirements. It's a lower feature in terms of active users. It's a useful feature, but it might be better located somewhere else. So as we come across some of these revisions or these ideas to better improve our navigation in the product, if it somewhat relates to us, I might encourage us to think about taking that on just to help keep that at the top of focus as we try and refine the product to make the SUS a little bit better. Definitely what we've been hearing is, hey, you have a lot of features, but you're telling me all at the same time, and it just kind of clutters the space. So we'll see where we go with that. Outside of the compliance group, I've been working on a few things around pajamas to better improve our documentation for the GitLab flavored Markdown. So in my case, I'm working on this audio one. It's kind of cool. For each browser, whenever you attach a file, it has a custom player that it displays. And the one thing I'm going to recommend for sure in terms of the implementation is that it expand 100% to its container in the div. Right now, it's just about like this size. It's kind of tiny, which would suck if you had a rather large file and you wanted to scrub it. So that would be a cool usability improvement. We're also trying to like figure out what we're going to build for Figma, what's going to actually be owned by GitLab. I don't think we're going to end up owning the styling of this for now. I thought maybe we'd go down to creating our own like GitLab flavored audio file player, but I just don't think it's high enough priority right now. So mostly it's around documentation. And I want to give a special shout out to both Max and Ian. I mean, y'all are great. I really enjoyed working with you. Max, you're doing great on MR approval settings. I just watched your video. I love to see how that's coming through. I have played with those settings like endlessly and thought about them deeply. So it's really cool to kind of see that come to fruition. And Ian, thank you so much for pairing with me. It's been really fun this week. We got to work on some tests together. I learned more about how to run tests locally and how to better write smaller tests. So that's going to help improve the pipelines that end up running in the future, hopefully not costing the company so much pipeline minutes. But that's it for this week. Talk to you again soon.